So I am finally home from my traveling doula job, which was challenging. I had a lot of hiccups, and this was the first time any of this happened. So mom actually labored and delivered in the car. Y'all, I delivered a whole baby. A whole baby. Your girl was catching. Anyway, we get to the hospital, this hospital right here. And labor and delivery comes down. They're asking me questions. I'm giving them all the information. I tried to clear most of the stuff out of her mouth. I'm telling I kept her warm, blah, blah, blah. They get skin to skin all the way up to the room. Bam. I said, hey, mom says I'm keeping my placenta. They were like, oh, okay. So they started asking questions. Oh, did you always say you wanted labor at home? No. She had a scare back in October, so she had already said we were doing a hospital. Fine, we got this. This hospital assumed because she labored at home, she didn't have any medical care. They didn't even ask her for her records. Y'all, they tried to do a drug test on her baby. The husband called me and was like, they keep putting these cotton balls on the baby and it's irritating her. And I don't know what kind of test they're trying to do. And I was like, well, ask somebody. And he was like, okay, because in my mind, I'm like, kidney, liver. I'm going through my little mind. The dad called me back and he was like, they trying to drug test her. Drug test her? I said, did y'all sign anything? They said, no. They didn't ask us. They were trying to sneak and do a drug test on her because they didn't have records on file. But did they ask for records? He was like, no, ain't nobody asked for records, asked for nothing. If y'all would have asked, me, mama, and dad had PDFs on our phone. We had all of that, but y'all never asked. Y'all assumed because she was a black woman, she didn't have medical care. Y'all tried to sneak and drug test that lady baby. Y'all, I cried so bad. My feelings were so hurt. I delivered a baby. It was an amazing experience, and they ripped that from my client because they assumed she didn't have medical records. She had just been to that same hospital in October because she had a scare. And them folks gonna tell me, oh, well, we don't have the information on file. Yes, y'all do, because y'all had to recommend some specialists. But y'all assumed because they were young and black, they didn't have health care. And y'all tried to drug test them people babies without asking for permission. And then Rhonda, who works at your hospital, said we don't have to have permission to do that. We can test for anything once we get the fluids out of blood. Know your birth rights, because if I didn't know childbirth rights, I wouldn't have been able to check everybody in that hospital. They had the right one. But this hospital, YouTube video